Hi, it's Anika from Living for Later. So I previously did a video on the fact that we were all called before we were born. If you click on the link below, above, you can kind of watch that video where I discuss Jeremiah's call and how I make the point that all of us were called before we were born. God had a specific purpose in mind when He created us. So today I want to continue in the same vein and take a look at Judges chapter 13. Now, at this point, the Israelites were being oppressed by the Philistines because they had walked in disobedience. So, because of that, God gave them over to their enemies. And that's another video all by itself. When you walk in disobedience, you kind of open the door to the enemy. So, in any case, up until this point, Samson's mom was not able to conceive. She did not have any children. But on this specific day, the angel of the Lord came to visit her to let her know that she will bring forth a child. And what gets me is in verse 4, Judges chapter 13, verse 4, the angel of the Lord says to her, "You must not drink wine or any other alcoholic drink or eat any forbidden food. You will become pregnant and give birth to a son, and his hair must never be cut, for he will be dedicated to God as a Nazarite from birth. He will rescue Israel from the Philistines." And what really got me was, I tell you, what a birth announcement, first of all. Imagine not being able to conceive, and then God comes, the angel of the Lord comes and gives you, hey, you're going to be pregnant. And these are the guidelines that you have to adhere to. Because, by the way, your child is going to be the deliverer, right? This is a person that I'm going to raise up to deliver them from the enemy. But again, what stood out to me was the fact that there were specific regulations given to Samson's mother because she was going to carry the deliverer within her. And Samson's specific purpose, the reason why he was created, was to rescue Israel from the Philistines. So because of that, there were specific guidelines given. What does that have to do with me and you? I want us to understand that because we were called before we were born, there's specific guidelines that God has just for us, right? This, I'm sure, these guidelines about being a Nazarite from birth was not given to every mother that was carrying at that time in Israel, because not everyone had the same purpose that Samson did. Now, this is where we mess up. God calls us to do something, and we're trying to follow what everyone else is doing, and we may get a sense that God is saying, stop doing that, stop watching that, don't do that, that's off limits to you. Now, these things may not necessarily be sinful, but for where God is taking us, we can't partake in those things. So this is where we mess up. We look at sister so and so who is super anointed, or brother so and so who the Lord uses in a mighty way, and we see that they're able to do the things that are off limits to us, and we try to press past what God is saying, not recognizing that this is all connected to our purpose, right? So I want to encourage you, go through and read just the account of Samson, and see how his life unfolds and why these specific regulations were given. And then I want you to stop and think about, first of all, what is your calling? What has God called you to? Have you spent time in prayer asking the Lord? And if you do know, what are some things that God has said to you specifically that are off limits? I know that God has given me specific directives, and Lord knows I'm praying for His grace. And the grace is there. I just must receive it. To just really walk in what I know He's told me is forbidden. I've spent too much time trying to make excuses as to why I can't do or stop doing the things that He's saying to stop doing, because it's connected to my calling. So I want to encourage you to spend some time in prayer and ask the Lord, Father, what is it that you're telling me is off limits to me, so that I can go forward in my purpose, operate in what you've called me to, and ask Him for the grace, and receive the grace that's there to really walk in obedience. Don't look to the left or to the right. operate in obedience. Do what you know the Lord is telling you to do, because what I recognize is that my calling is not just about me. Other people are affected by my obedience. That's a weighty thing when you really think about it. Sometimes we live our Christian walk and we think it's just about us, but it really isn't. Other people's excuse me, um walks are connected to what God has told us to do. So don't walk in disobedience. Do what you know the Lord is telling you to do. Stop doing what he's told you is off limits to you, and again, just receive his grace and go forth in your destiny. You be blessed.